Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the big radio program, Tuesday edition, Thanksgiving Tuesday edition, short week this week. We will be on vacay with the rest of you on Thursday and Friday, and we'll be back on Monday. But this week we've got few more things to go over before we slice the turkey and get into the tryptophan coma there at the end. And so we'll get into it. Today is, of course, Tuesday, and that means we're going to get into the deep dive with Brad Keithley from Alaskans For Sustainable Budgets, who's going to come on board and talk with us today about the three big things that he sees that are happening that we should be concerned about or be paying attention to or be digging down into, I guess, as it goes through. In hour two of the program today, we'll be joined by Chris Story as well. And we'll be talking with him here in hour two. And maybe we'll peel out of Brad some of his Thanksgiving traditions as well, because that's what we're doing here as we go through. All right, let's jump into it without further ado and jump in and get things ready to rock and roll. Brad Keithley, Alaskans For Sustainable Budgets, our guest this morning. Hello, my friend. How are you? How are you doing this morning?
Michael, I'm doing okay. How many more programs do we have this year? We have this one, and what do we do? 2 in December, and then one that's the Christmas edition?
Yeah, I think it's one that's the Christmas edition because we're off on the 22nd. So literally, we're doing this one, and then we have 3 more. So two and a Christmas one. How about that?
Yeah,
so
the Christmas
2 more.
The Christmas one where you forced me to be nice.
I know, really. It's like you got to stop thinking about doom and gloom for 5 minutes and think about, good memories, and you have to actually be positive for a minute. No, it's all good. But yeah, so 3 more visits before 3 more sleeps till Christmas, Brad. So 3 more visits till Christmas, and then we'll be good to go. So anyway, yeah, it's we're getting there. Let's get started here, because this is some interesting stuff. I'm was doing some of the reading last night and this morning, and this whole gas thing is just fascinating. The AK LNG project is worming its way into just about every aspect of our lives, whether we want it to or not. So let's catch up on LNG, Cook Inlet LNG, and give me your thoughts on what's going on here.
Well, there's 2 aspects of Cook Inlet LNG. One is the LNG importation, the importation of LNG to fill the coming gap in traditional production from Cook Inlet gas supplies, and then the big line coming down from the North Slope. That's referred to as Alaska LNG. That's another LNG aspect. So let's break them up into the 2. The Cook Inlet LNG. Which I think the importation of LNG into Cook Inlet, which I think everybody, I don't see any dissents from that anymore. Everybody has accepted is going to be there's going to be importation of LNG at least for some period, if not becoming a normal routine part of the Cook Inlet over time. has taken on some fascinating pieces here in the past little bit. You can see it coming, but it's sort of coalescing into this interesting situation we have. There are two, notwithstanding the fact we don't need a lot for a fairly long period, because we still have Cook Inlet production. We will still have native Cook Inlet production for a fairly prolonged period. Notwithstanding we don't need a lot, we have two Cook Inlet LNG importation projects. One is a collaboration, a greenfield collaboration between NSTAR and Glenfarne to build a new LNG, a brand new spanking LNG importation plant at the location where the LNG export plant would be ultimately if the big line is built. And that is something that's been championed and is underway as a collaboration between NSTAR and Glenfarne. And then there's the second one is one that I've talked about since we started going down this hole of having a gap in Cook Inlet supplies. The second one is the acquisition by Hilcorp of the old Kenai LNG facility, the old ConocoPhillips back in the day, LNG export facility to use as to turn it around and use as an import facility. And that was historically run by Phillips back in the day to use as an export facility. And then as we started hitting the limits of Cook Inlet production, they shut that down. And now it's been acquired by Hilcorp. It was owned by Marathon, acquired it. Marathon, who owns the refinery next door, acquired it to use it to import LNG for its own uses as a fuel at the plant, but never really did that. And so they have now sold it to Hilcorp to be turned into an importation, an LNG import plant at some expense, because you just don't flip a switch and it turns around. You got to make substantial investments. Plus, it's been shut down for a while to turn it into a LNG import facility. And those are both proceeding apace. I think it's the general consensus. I'm sure there are people who would object to this, but I guess the general consensus, we don't need two. The Kenai LNG facility has some limitations on it, but it's scalable. You can construct additional import, additional regasification facilities, and additional facilities around that. Probably easier than you can the greenfield facility that NSTAR is building. But we have this divide going on, and Nat Hertz did an excellent column on this that's showing up in some of the state's papers, is on Nat's website, Northern Journal. And here is sort of the nut of why we have this divide, why we have two facilities going on. The announcement of the Hilcorp's acquisition of the Kenai LNG plant from Marathon, the announcement underscored an already tense relationship between NSTAR and Hilcorp, the Harvest affiliate. The two companies have been feuding in court over terms of an existing unrelated natural gas supply contract between NSTAR and Hilcorp, and the dispute is what Hilcorp is obligated to deliver on any given day, on peak days, to NSTAR, and that's been the subject of a fairly intense dispute. John Sims, who's the head of NSTAR in Alaska, has said publicly that his company is not interested in participating in a project that could further consolidate the position of Hilcorp, which is currently urban Alaska's dominant supplier to utilities of locally produced natural gas. And what that means is the biggest Cook Inlet producer by far. Right. It's the biggest Cook Inlet producer. So Sims is saying he's not interested, because, substantial part because of this dispute they have between NSTAR and Hilcorp. He's not interested in participating in this project by Hilcorp. I have problems with Hilcorp having acquired the Kenai LNG plant. When you talk about consolidation of market or concentration in markets, you use something called the HHI index, the Herfindahl index. That's what you use to calculate the level to which a market is concentrated. And the HHIs, with Hilcorp already in the dominant supplier position, the HHIs go off the chart when Hilcorp acquires the Kenai LNG plant. I mean, they're higher than any market concentration you would normally see. And so I have concerns about Hilcorp acquiring, but there are ways to handle that concern. And I wrote a column about this a few months ago in the Landmine. The way to handle that concern is through regulation, because essentially Hilcorp's becoming a monopoly. It will monopolize its position in the Cook Inlet in terms of gas supply with the acquisition of the LNG plant and using it for LNG supplies. And so the way you normally handle a monopoly like that is through regulation. And we have an agency, a regulatory agency that's skilled at doing that, the Regulatory Commission of Alaska, that regulates natural energy monopolies, natural gas monopolies, electric monopolies in the state, but also natural gas monopolies in the state. And it wouldn't be that hard a thing for the RCA to take that on and regulate that monopoly. So there are ways of handling this market concentration concern that's out there with respect to Hilcorp, short of building a second plant. I mean, competition's good, but you don't need to undertake, building a second plant when you've got an existing plant that could serve the demand. So that's a whole issue that I think is going to become more intense the farther we go. I mean, Hilcorp's sinking money, or NSTAR is sinking money into its deal with Glenfarne. It's doing site preparation. It's doing work on preparation for what that plant would look like, and so it's starting to sink money into that second plant. I think the RCA needs to, and at one point, Sims said that he would welcome, in this article, he said he would welcome RCA intervention to try to bring some rationality to this.
Yeah.
I think the RCA needs to step in and do that.
Well, this is what struck me about this is, and I understand the concerns about Hilcorp being being dominant and having a virtual monopoly, but you would think that these three utilities could work together to try and figure this out. But instead, Sims, and you just said it, Sims acknowledged as much, said he'd welcome intervention from regulators to encourage closer collaboration. Why do you have to have the regulators come in to let you guys collaborate together? That's the thing. I mean, it makes no sense. Why would we build two $500 million plants when we only need one? What? They're just not playing together. That's it. I mean, they're just not getting along. What's happening?
Well, I think part of it is Sim says it later in the article that he doesn't trust Hilcorp. Basically, that he doesn't trust Hilcorp. They're not getting along with Hilcorp. Hilcorp's monopolization of the gas supply market is of concern to him, and it should be, but it shouldn't. The answer to it shouldn't be to build a second plant. The answer should be for the RCA, and if it needs additional legislation to do this, and it may, for the RCA and the legislature to step in and say, look, it's great that Hilcorp wants to do this. It's great that Hilcorp has the expertise and feels it wants to step in and be the supplier, but we're creating a monopoly here. And monopolies need to be addressed. I mean, we can't let them run riot, and monopolies need to be addressed. And so we need to have RCA regulation of the Hilcorp Kenai LNG plant. And I think that step removes Sims's argument that we need this second plant because we can't trust Hilcorp. And the RCA is sort of at the center of this. The RCA would be the regulator of the LNG plant, of Hilcorp's LNG plant. The RCA is the regulator of both Chugach, who's pursuing this project with Hilcorp, and NSTAR regulates both of them. The RCA is the one who could knock heads and force the two by disallowing costs. Knock heads, force the two to come together and work on a joint project that achieves lower overall cost for Cook Inlet residents. So it's the RCA is at the center of this. The legislature may need to become part of the solution by giving the RCA whatever powers it feels it lacks to be able to regulate Hilcorp. But we should not be building two LNG import facilities for at least in the near future for the relatively small size of the gap that we're going to have in the near future.
Well,
One other piece.
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say one other piece of the Cook Inlet LNG situation is the AK LNG project and coming down from the slope. And we saw something at a hearing last week that I knew was coming. And we've talked about on the show that it was coming. It just hadn't reared its head yet, but it did last week. And that is the Glenfarne and the proponents of the AK LNG project coming in and asking the legislature for various things that that they say the legislature needs to do to protect, to solidify the AK LNG project. What they asked for last week was essentially in the industry what you call an offset provision. You have certain taxes, or you have a certain fiscal structure that on which a project will be predicated, and in the international, this shows up in the international sphere some. In the international sphere, if a project is very tight on its economics, and you're building that project based upon a certain assumption about what the state take is going to be, what government take is going to be, you ask for an offset provision such that if the state would increase taxes, for example, property taxes on pipelines would increase taxes in a given area, the level of state take in a given area, that the statute also provides, that the governing statutes also provide an offset that the government would reduce its take in another area so that the economics of the project would remain the same across the board. It's essentially special treatment of a project that has marginal economics. And I could see this coming from Glenfarne, that they're going to start to ask for things like lower property taxes than the state's property tax rate, various provisions that will enable them to fix their economics, but at the expense of the government's flexibility going forward. And that's exactly what they did last week. So the Cook Inlet has a lot of moving parts going on with it. We need to reduce and simplify the number of moving parts, certainly on the side of the import LNG projects, and get them sort of focused on one that works as opposed to two that will magnify costs. But we also need to be aware that we're starting to see the AK LNG proponents ask for special favors from state government going forward that will shift the burden of risk from the project itself to state government, and shift the economics from a risk economics on the part of the project over to a risk economics on the part of state government.
And this is part and parcel of the whole thing that Glenfarne's been doing. They wanted a surety that if they spent the $50 million earlier, that they get reimbursed from the state. And now they're looking for more surety on this, that if anything changes, not just taxes, but maybe regulatory things that the state may not have any control over, they want to be held harmless from that as well. And I mean, it could be a significant problem in the future.
It's a water drop. I mean, essentially what they're doing, we've talked about this on the show before. They've announced all of these, various letters of intent and potential agreements with suppliers and all of those sorts of things to sort of build up expectation and excitement about the project. Now they're starting to drop in the things they want from the state, the economic certainty they want from the state as we go along. I don't think that project goes, but it's something to certainly be aware of what the state may potentially be signing on to as we go down the road.
Brad Keithley, Alaskans For Sustainable Budgets. The weekly top 3 continues. We got more coming up. Number 2, dead ahead. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
All right, Brad Keithley, Alaskans For Sustainable Budgets, and the weekly top 3. I mean, at least they've stopped dithering on whether or not they should import LNG. But now they're going to have a tussle over two different I mean, this makes no sense to me. I mean, it really doesn't. And the fact that we didn't even talk about the fact that NSTAR has now asked the RCA to allow them to bill customers for what, $48 million or something, $50 million to bill customers ahead of time because they have to pay back Glenfarne for some of this other stuff. So they're speculating, and they want the RCA to sign off on them charging customers $50 million more to build this second facility. I mean, this just sounds like a jobs program for Glenfarne, quite honestly.
Yeah. Well, the problem is we're seeing sort of the utility play out of kids squabbling, right? I mean, NSTAR doesn't like Hillcorp for decent reasons. I mean, Hillcorp is Hillcorp reads its contracts in ways different than other people do. Hillcorp is a fairly aggressive operator in terms of its dealings with NSTAR, and NSTAR is reticent to put all of its eggs in the Hillcorp basket. I understand that, but what I don't understand is that then branching off into two LNG import projects, sort of doubling the cost, if you will, of LNG import projects, because this isn't the way the track we're going on right now. This isn't a one or the other. This is both of them. NSTAR builds one, Hillcorp builds one for Chugach, and we end up with both of them. And so we need the adult in the room to sort of get involved and sort of shake this out. And the adult in the room, we've got an adult in the room, is the RCA. We've set up a statutory scheme where the RCA is the adult in the room over utilities. It sort of looks over their shoulders and makes sure they're doing things right at the lowest reasonable cost for ratepayers. The problem is the RCA hasn't quite stepped in, and the problem also is the RCA may not have all the authority it needs to be able to deal with Hillcorp, and that's something the legislature needs to address. Because as I said, I understand Sims's position that he doesn't want to have to become subject to a monopolist in dealing with this gas supply. I understand that. But we've got solutions for that rather than building your own plant, a second plant. And so we ought to be having hearings, and we ought to be having legislation that addresses that situation, as opposed to just letting it go ahead and fester. Because, if we don't address it in this legislature, we go another year, potentially another 2 years. NSTAR keeps spending money on that second project. They want the recovery of that money. That's the $40 million you're talking about. They want the recovery of that money. If it doesn't get solved in time, they may even start building the damn thing. And then we're really going down the wrong road. So it's something I think that the legislature needs to understand better from the RCA. The RCA needs to be more expressive about the situation it's in. And then the RCA needs to address it as well with the utilities.
I mean, we've been talking about how the RCA has been kind of MIA on this whole thing, right? The whole time they need to be stepping it up. And I just don't see how that's going to happen, and why we would build a second facility for $500 million and then expect the ratepayers to pay it. There was a comment, and I wasn't aware of this. There was a comment. The parallel development efforts represent a significant split among urban Alaskans utilities, which, according to regulators and watchdogs, also drove up costs for consumers by failing to coordinate when they spent $1.5 billion on new power plants and other infrastructure in recent years. Apparently, they weren't talking to each other, so nobody knew. So they built duplicate stuff.
Yeah, that was a split on the electric side between MEA, who built an electric plant, a generation plant for themselves in Chugach. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't understand the competitiveness in that regard. It makes no sense. All right, we're gonna jump back into this here. We're about 20 seconds out here. Brad Keithley, Alaskans For Sustainable Budgets, the weekly top 3. Please like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's get all this done. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio.
Whew! I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show. Okay, we're continuing now. Brad Keithley, Alaskans For Sustainable Budgets, number 2 of the weekly top 3. We just got all kind of catching up with the AK LNG and the Cook Inlet gas. Now it's time to catch up on the North Slope crude, because we keep hearing news stories. Oh, it's going to be great. They're going to start pumping oil in March. It's going to be fun. Oh, wait, we don't get paid for 10 years? Never mind. Brad, what's happening here?
So a couple of things on the North Slope that we need to catch up on. One is the lease sale that just occurred that has made headlines in all the state's newspapers and is touted by the Dunleavy administration as a continuing sign of the North Slope renaissance. And the second is the startup of Pica and the stories, Santos's Pica project, and the stories that we're seeing about all the additional revenues we're going to get out of Pica. The first one, the lease sale. Lease sale was good. I mean, I'm not going to knock the lease sale. We had a number of bids. We had a number of tracks sold. But at the end of the day, it's $17 million. I mean, $17 million is money. But when you look at a state deficit of $1.8 billion, $2 billion, $17 million sort of pales in comparison in terms of being a solution. What we had on the lease sale was a couple of things. One was people are sort of as people are becoming more familiar through Pica and through Willow and through some other exploration activities that are going on up there, as they're becoming more familiar with maybe the trends, the geologic trends that exist on the North Slope and where potential oil is. What you see in part is people filling in holes in their lease position around projects that and in lease areas that potentially may be part of the new trends or potentially may hold sort of branch offs of the new trends. And so there was quite a bit of that going on. People just sort of filling in holes, leases that there are areas that hadn't been previously leased, but looked like they might be part of the trend. Some of it was sort of step out, some of it was people looking at new areas and the potential that new areas that you might have oil potential in new areas that really weren't part of the current trends. That was a much smaller part of the lease sale, but you have some of that in the lease sale. But you have most of that is by small players, small LLCs that don't even have websites. I mean, I went to look for a couple of these new companies that I wasn't familiar with. And they don't even have websites up describing their company. So those usually are players trying to get in front of a potential play, get themselves a lease position for a relatively low cost, and then they're hoping to be bought out if it turns into something. They may try to finance an exploration well themselves. They may not, but it's really just sort of a bet on the potential of new plays out there, and they're trying to position themselves to get something out of it. Think in the software industry. Think of somebody who develops a new app, hoping to be bought out by Google or Microsoft or Apple. That they're putting a little bit of money in to try to develop the new app, but they're hoping to be bought out by a major player. That's sort of what's going on with part of this. The other thing noteworthy about the sale, again, is that it's focused. The bids were focused primarily onshore on the North Slope. There were some bids in the North Slope foothills, but that's sort of the speculative players that are looking at potential new plays, extensions of existing plays in the North Slope, or other new plays. Not really major players looking at real prospects, just sort of people speculating. And there was a couple of bids out on the state waters offshore, but again, that was speculative players, not really major players who have the financial capital behind them to be able to really pursue projects out there. They're just trying to position themselves to go forward. So $17 million is $17 million, but it's only $17 million. And so, a lot of people seem to be seem to have a lot of excitement about this. Oh, it's a new record, number of players, number of leases sold. Yeah, okay, but it's not huge in terms of, oh my gosh, somebody's identified something that nobody had ever thought about, and there's a rush to get in on that, and there's a lot of money being put in on that. $17 million in the industry, particularly spread out over the number of lease tracks that we have here, is not that big a number. The other thing going on that's making the press, that's going on the North Slope, that I think is worth talking about, is we're seeing a number of articles about, there was one in Must Read, or not Must Read, the Alaska Story, the new Must Read, or I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't even say that, Alaska Story. Right. There was an article about, we have Santos's Pika project about to start. That's going to produce so much revenue. It's going to be great for the state. We need to keep in mind, yes, we're going to get royalty revenue, but we don't get production tax revenue until 2032 out of the Pika project. Even if the Pika project starts next year in 2026, we don't get production tax revenue because of the way SB 21 operates. We don't get production tax revenue out of that project until 2032. So yes, we're getting some revenue, and yes, some revenue is better than no revenue, and yes, some royalty revenue is better than no royalty revenue. But the standard we ought to be looking at here is, are we achieving what the Constitution requires, which is the maximum benefit from the states, from the development of the state's resources, maximum benefit for the people from the development of the state's resources. And you and I have had this discussion before. We're going to continue to have this discussion over time. I don't think we are. I think we are falling short. The legislature is falling short, and the administration is falling short in not proposing to the legislature, and falling short in terms of not reforming oil production taxes to reflect the system that we've gone into now in the second decade of SB whatever the hell it was, SB 21. Not fully reflecting the economics of what's going on, and having a situation in which a major share of the initial, between now and 2032, Pika is going to ramp up in terms of production. It's going to plateau for a while, and it's going to be on the downside by 2032. So the major share of initial Pika production is going to go untaxed, not paying production tax. So I think we have, people are all excited about the additional revenues, and there's a lot of praise of Pika, and a lot of praise of Santos and the development, and all of that's deserved. But there's a shortfall, in my view, between what we're going to get out of that additional production, a substantial share of that additional production, what we're going to get out of that, and the constitutional standard of maximum benefit. And I don't see anybody in any of the articles talking about, measuring what we're getting out of Pika in terms of the constitutional standard, right? And looking at whether or not we're hitting the constitutional standard on what the state's share of that additional production should be.
You've gone into this in detail, talking about how the production goes, the production curve goes way up, but our income curve goes down because of those production taxes. And you, as an oil and gas guy, have said many times that we need to revisit this tax structure, but there is such a pushback from everybody involved. Nobody wants to talk about revisiting the tax structure. It's almost as bad as the idea of some kind of sales tax or something, because we just couldn't possibly do that, even though we have a finite resource that's not coming. I mean, we only have so much of it, and yet we're basically, at this point, giving away the farm, especially on the front end of the production, where all the the high production is. By the time 2032, 2034 comes involved, as you said, now it's on the decline. We've already got a declining resource there. I mean, none of this makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's I don't think I was there at the beginning of SB 21. I was there in the arguments, and the arguments were, we need to make an investment. The state needs to make an investment in terms of restructuring oil taxes, lowering the state's oil tax take in order to incentivize additional investment and additional production. And the key part of the argument, a key part of the argument, was at the back end. Once we have this additional production, the state's going to share in the benefits of the additional production by deriving additional revenues that the state otherwise would not get. And so it's a good deal for the state to give up money at the front end by reducing oil taxes. Good deal to make this investment, to attract additional investment, to bring additional production, and then the state's going to share in the benefit at the end. That's not what's happening. What's happening is at the back end, when we're supposed to be sharing in the benefits of this additional production is going up. Production rises over the last 10-year forecast, the spring revenue forecast. Production rises something like 40%, but production tax revenues go down by 40%. And yes, royalties sort of stay the same along the way, but production taxes, which is a big part of the state's revenue share from oil, a big part of how we achieve the maximum benefit obligation under the Constitution. Production taxes actually go down as production volumes are going up. That's not how SB 21 was sold. That's not the intent behind SB 21. The intent was a sharing of sacrifice at the beginning in terms of the state reducing the oil tax burden to incentivize additional investment and additional development, and then a sharing of the benefit at the back end to sort of compensate the state for taking this reduction at the front end. The sharing of the benefit at the back end didn't happen.
Well, and we should be talking about this more and more, but we'll see where this goes. Brad Keithley, Alaskans For Sustainable Budgets. That's number 2 of the weekly top 3. Number 3 is Dead Ahead. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, Brad Keithley, Alaskans For Sustainable Budgets, the weekly top 3. I don't even know what to say to this, Brad, because again, we could see the problems, we could see where it's going. And even though Suzanne Downing makes a mention of this, there's really no, she mentions she says, because PICA developers can deduct billions in initial project costs, significant production tax revenue is not expected until around 2034. But royalties and pipeline efficiencies will provide immediate benefits. So she goes on to talk about the jobs and everything else. But the bottom line is that they'll mention it, and then they'll not mention to what extent that affects the state. That's the worst part. It's like they mention it, and then they gloss over it, and they move on to something else.
Yeah, and there's something. There's this. What they're glossing over is something else. I mean, people say, okay, oil companies ought to be able to recover their costs. And so the fact that they have all these costs they've built up in the development and that deduction is driving down the state take, some people say, well, that's okay. We ought to let them recover their costs. Now, the problem is they're recovering their costs in a way that's sort of beyond industry standard out there in the world. They're recovering their costs in the first year after they make the expense, after they spend the money. The usual standard out in the world is an amortization over some period of time so that you recover a little bit of your cost every year. And the other thing is the standard out in the world is mostly ring fencing so that you recover your cost against the production that the investment's been made to produce. In Alaska, we let them recover the cost against any production. So ConocoPhillips, for example, which has a lot of existing production, is able to reduce the taxes it's paying on other production in the state from the investment it's making in Willow. So there's even a little bit of things that we ought to be talking about with respect to recovery costs. But the big thing that's driving the PICA, the not recovering money from PICA for several years, is an artificial thing that was put in SB 21 called the gross value reduction provision. And the gross value reduction provision reduces the amount of revenue that's subject to tax for new developments outside of existing fields. And that was sort of a good thing at the time SB 21 was done, but it's run amok in terms of the impact it's having on production taxes. So it's not just what Suzanne mentions, which is the recovery of costs. It's the GVR provision, the gross value reduction provision, the artificial gross value reduction provision that's sitting on top of those costs that's really driving down production tax revenues. PICA, for example, would be paying a 4% minimum tax from the first barrel of production. 4% minimum tax, even with all their costs, they'd be paying a 4% minimum tax from the first value of production, from the first barrel of production, if it weren't for the GVR provision. It's the GVR provision that is delaying or excusing any production taxes from between 2026 and 2032. So we've done it to ourselves. It's not just the cost, just not recovery of costs. It is the GVR provision that's sitting on top of the recovery of costs that is creating this this extended tax holiday for new production. That's resulting then resulting in production tax revenues going down, even as production volumes rise. And that's something we can go in. I mean, the producers can say all day long, oh, we spent this money thinking that we're going to be able to recover it. Okay, fine. We got very liberal provisions about how you recover it, but let's set that aside for a later discussion. Let's talk about the GVR provision and the artificiality that the legislature introduced in SB 21 with the GVR provision. And let's reform that so that at least you pay minimum tax from the first barrel. At least you don't get excused from any tax.
And the GVR change, of course, the legislature could make a simple change with that in and of itself in isolation and fix part of this problem, is what you're saying.
Yep. Just go back to minimum tax. Just take the tax holiday that GVR creates, take that tax holiday off, and just make sure that every barrel at least pays a minimum tax. Right now, we're not doing that, and that's a big part of the effect of production volumes going up while production taxes are going out. It's a big driver of production taxes going down.
And why do you think nobody else is talking about this aberration here, Brad? Why is nobody else talking about it?
Because it's complicated, and you actually have to spend time figuring it out, and you have to actually understand the industry a little bit to figure it out. And we don't have a lot of people in government who understand the industry. We don't have a lot of legislators who understand the commercial aspects of the industry. So it's just complicated. You got to figure it out. And the industry says, hey, you wrote rules. We relied on the rules. Don't change the rules on us as we go forward with the production. And people go, oh, okay.
Okay. All right. We'll just do what you say. All right. We're going to jump back into it. Brad Keithley, Alaskans For Sustainable Budgets, the weekly top 3. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell.
Public enema number 1. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number 1, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
All right, we're continuing now. Brad Keithley, Alaskans For Sustainable Budgets, and the weekly top 3. We're ready to get into it. We're on to the number 3, which is a discussion which I'm sure will make all of our eyes glaze over, but it is super important, right? I mean, Brad, I was just asking Brad, why don't some of these things get fixed? And he's like, because it's complicated. And everybody wants to, basically everybody wants to talk in sound bites. Nobody wants to do the homework and have to get down into it. But this is the stuff that we need to be talking about. All right. So Brad, inflation versus income. There's some real issues here. Brad, just give it to me. I know I'm setting Brad up for some bad stuff here. Give it to me, Brad. What do we?
You had the right words in there. You had inflation and income and real and sort of all that stuff. So I've been spending some time trying to better understand what's going on with Alaska income, with income to Alaska families, and the measure I've been using for that is real in the economic sense, which means after inflation. You take inflation out, so you can compare years better that way. You're not having inflated numbers as a result of it, as a result of inflation only. Real median Alaska household income, and I use median there's two measures of average Alaska household income. One is mean, which is the average, and the other is median, which is the midpoint. There's an equal number of incomes above and households above and households below. It's the median. And the reason you use median is because mean, the average, the arithmetic average of mean, is heavily influenced if you have a number of high income families or a number of low income families. It will pull the average up or down away from the median. The median is a much better measure of what's the average Alaska family experiencing. Mean is really distorted by a cluster at the top or a cluster at the bottom. So median really is a much better reflection of what the average Alaska family is experiencing. And I've been looking at that, just sort of stunned, because the real, after inflation, median Alaska household income has not changed virtually since 1984. I mean, it has gone up and down a little bit, but if you scale it on an index with 100 being what we had in 1984, it's not changed real after inflation. It's not changed much in 2024. Over the 40 years, it hasn't changed much. And if I did another calculation starting in 2020, and it doesn't change much from 2020, it just stays. Other states have had an increase in their real median household income. If you look at the states, the out-migration states that Alaskans are going to, if you look at Washington, Oregon, Texas, Florida, the states that Alaskans are out migrating to, all of those have had an increase in their real income. If you look at the northern tier states that Alaska is often measured against, Montana, the Dakotas, Idaho, all of those have had an increase in real median household income. Alaska's just stayed stagnant. And then I've looked at GDP, gross domestic product, which is the measure of the output of the economy and economic growth, what some people refer to as economic growth in the economy. And Alaska's GDP has gone up over that period. But real median Alaska household income has stayed relatively static. So it's a fascinating. I've got a chart, Michael, if you can throw it up quickly, that looks at this since 2020. The dotted line is GDP, and as you can see, GDP has gone up. It went up toward 2006, and then it's sort of stuck at that level. This is real again after inflation, but it's sort of stuck at that level since 2006. But it's elevated significantly. It's gone up 50% over the 20 years between 2020. Well, 24 years between 2020 and 2024. It's gone up 50% over that period of time. The solid line is real median Alaska household income, and you can see it's on an index. It starts at 100%, at 100 on the index in 2000, and it's back to 100 in 2024. It hasn't changed. I mean, it's gone down sometimes when the cost of living, when inflation's been high. It's gone up sometimes for various reasons, but over the span of that 20 years, it hasn't, or 25 years, basically, it hasn't changed, even as GDP has gone up. So there's some issues in here that we need to understand, because Alaska used to have a very strong household income compared to other states. It used to be the strongest in the nation, and it's gradually deteriorating over time by just running in place as other states have real growth, and as Alaska GDP has grown. And we need to understand why that is, because the real measure of how Alaska is doing, how Alaska families are doing, is household income, and whether the households in Alaska are growing, having a growing share of income, a growing share of wealth, and we're not. Even as our GDP, even as the overall state output, real GDP, inflation adjusted GDP, even as real GDP is growing, why aren't Alaska families benefiting getting the benefit of some of that growth? Why aren't they growing in the same time frame that GDP is growing? A lot of answers for that. It's interesting to ask Chat GDP or any of the other AIs that question and see the answers you get. There's a lot of things that are going on. Part of it is the GDP growth is in oil, and that's really a capital intensive growth, a growth based upon capital investment. And so the returns, the benefits of that growth are going to capital. They're going to the people who invest, the equity owners. It's going to the debt holders in terms of the repayment of debt. It's going back to the companies in terms of recovery of depreciation. It's not flowing to Alaska families. And so that's part of it, part of what's going on. There are other things going on. One thing that shows up consistently when you start studying this is the influence of the permanent fund dividend. And the discussion is that the permanent fund dividend is a sort of a unique way that Alaska found to tie GDP growth to capital, to income growth, by distributing a portion of the benefits realized from GDP growth, or a portion of the benefits realized from oil revenue growth, down to families. The cut in the PFD is having an impact on keeping Alaska household income flat, even as we see the benefit of oil and revenues from oil and the GDP generated by oil increasing. So something that's I'm going to be writing about a lot more, something I'm going to be talking about a lot more, but this is sort of the basics to begin the discussion about why we are having this diversion and why Alaska households are remaining static over time as the rest of the nation and as Alaska GDP and as overall GDP grows. Why are Alaska households remaining static over that period?
And how much of this is also combined in the fact that we're paying more attention to the private sector or the public sector than we are the private sector, right? I mean, how big of a factor is that? 45 seconds here as you wrap up, Brad.
Yeah, part of it is that because it's not the payments to the public sector or expenditures by the public sector don't necessarily reflect in household income. They reflect benefits generated to households, but not in household income. So that's part of it as well.
Yeah. Brad Keithley, Alaskans For Sustainable Budgets, the weekly top 3. We'll see if we could talk Brad into hanging with us for a minute to talk about Thanksgiving because I feel good about that. We'll see what happens. Brad, thank you so much for coming on board and hitting the weekly top 3 with us. We appreciate it.
Michael, as always, thanks for having me.
Folks, we got to go. We're going to be back with more. The Michael Duke Show continues. Hour 2 dead ahead. Common Sense Radio. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, I mean, you look at this and you can just see that money is not trickling down into household income. I mean, the money is stuck. And as you said, whether it's in repayment or, capital intensive things, or whether it's going into government spend and not being reflected in the direct income of the households, this is another red flag right here.
It is. And it's, I mean, Alaskans, generally speaking, I don't think Alaskans feel like they're making progress. I mean, some sectors do. Those tied to the oil industry do. Some tied to the government services industries do. They feel like they're making progress. But the average Alaskan that I talk to really doesn't feel like they're making progress. And so when I start looking at average household income as a way of trying to get at that issue, I see why they don't think they're making progress. Cost of living is taking, I mean, if you look at non-inflation adjusted median household income, it's going up. But the reason it's staying flatlined on a real basis is because the cost of living increases are taking all of that benefit out. So Alaskans are just treading water. The average Alaska family is just treading water over time. They see benefits they see headlines that say, hey, there's benefits in terms of additional oil development. There's benefits in terms of additional investment, but they're not seeing that in their pockets. They're not seeing that flow into the average Alaska household. And I sense a lot of frustration about that. And you start looking at the numbers and you see why that is. I've got a chart that I'm going to publish either this Friday or the next Friday that breaks this down by income bracket actually the low income, the low 20%, the lowest quintile is losing on a real basis. Their income isn't going up enough even to offset inflation. They have a negative real growth. The middle income brackets, the lower middle, the middle, and the upper middle are sort of gaining a little bit against inflation, but not much. The top 20% is gaining a lot, and the top 5% is gaining a huge amount. So to the extent we have money flowing into to Alaska household income or Alaska households, it's flowing mostly into increasing the income gap between the upper incomes and the middle and the lower income. So it's a fascinating subject once you start digging into it and understanding the numbers that are reflecting what's going on with the Alaskans, the Alaska household economy.
But wait, Frank says it's because of their spending choices. They're not seeing growth because of their spending choices. But if they're not even keeping up with inflation, what does the spending choices matter at that point, right? And Corey says now we're being asked to pay additional taxes to offset what the government won't stop spending, and that's again another thing. They won't control what they're doing, so I mean we have to pony up even more.
Yeah, but this is the income side. I mean, spending has nothing to do with it. This is the income side, and what Alaskans are receiving in income. It's a whole different calculation when you start talking about disposable income and all that sort of stuff. But this is just the basic income side, what Alaskans are receiving in income, and their income isn't growing. Their real after cost of living, their real income isn't growing. What you're seeing, what you see in the headlines is, oh, the economy's growing, the GDP is growing, or there's more oil industry jobs. Well, those are high paying jobs, and yes, you are seeing growth in the high paying jobs. You're seeing their trend line going up, but the median Alaska household is not seeing any growth at all after cost of living. So it doesn't matter what they're spending it on, that has no impact. It's the income side. We're not seeing the income to the real median Alaska household going up.
And that's a problem. Harold says you're finally on his side. I mean, you've been talking about been talking about reforming the oil taxes and giveaways since SB 21, but now you're finally on his side. I just wanted to let you know that in case you were worried about that. It's fine.
That actually bothers me.
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. It does matter when we're paying utilities and groceries, the cost of living, and additional taxes impact. Yeah, and I understand that, Corey. I understand what you're saying there. Definitely, we're all feeling it. But what Brad's whole point here is that even just the base income, before we get to expenses or what you're spending or anything else, is that we're not even keeping our head above water in that regard, and there's a problem there. And I think a part of it is, again, the oil taxation and the growth and explosive growth of government over the last 20 years.
Yeah, and oil taxation is two parts. One is oil taxation, getting your fair share out of the oil industry, getting the maximum benefit as required by the Constitution out of the oil industry. But it's also whether that shows up in Alaska household income. And that the only way we're really transferring the benefits of oil into the median Alaska household, into the average Alaska household, is through the PFD. So if you're cutting PFDs, even if you increase oil taxes, if you're cutting PFDs, that's not going to translate into the average Alaska household income. That's the mechanism where Alaska had genius over an extended period of its history, of its oil history, translating some of that economic growth in GDP back into household income. And now we're losing that genius by transferring, by taking that income, instead of putting it to households, putting it into government.
Right, where it doesn't show up for everybody. Brad Keithley, do you want to hang out for a minute and see if we can dispel the curmudgeonly reputation of you?
Yeah, I think it's undispellable, but sure, we could try.
I thought we'd just riff for a minute about holiday stuff. I thought that would be fun.
Sure.
So if you're willing to do that, I'll hang out with you. That'll be fun. Brad Keithley, Alaskans For Sustainable Budgets. The weekly top three continues. The Michael Duke Show, or weekly top three's over. Now it's holidays. Here we go.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska. This your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Welcome to Tuesday of this short week, Thanksgiving week. Tomorrow is the final day of the weekly broadcast. We'll be off on Thursday and Friday. And only 3 more weeks after that until the Christmas holiday, which I'm psyched about it. It's going to be great. Now, I wanted to give Brad Keithley, Alaskans For Sustainable Budgets, who always comes in hour 1 of Tuesdays, to give us the straight dope. He gives us some hard truths, and I just offered to see if he wanted to lighten it up a little bit. And Brad's not sure that everybody's going to love him because he's such a truth sayer. But I thought we would sit down and chat with him real quick and get the full. And get some more fun stuff, Brad. We give you a hard time, but man, you always give us some good info. There's always some good intel in there. We appreciate it. But I thought we'd just take a quick minute here, and maybe we could dispel some of that the feelings of being scared and butthurt and everything that Brad said. And we talk about Thanksgiving. So, Brad, Thanksgiving, what is your favorite? What is your favorite Thanksgiving tradition that you had, one, growing up, and 2, now that you're an adult, you're a real boy and you're an adult, what is your current favorite tradition? Because I'm sure it's probably changed, but let's start off with when you were growing up. Did you have any great traditions that you can always think back on and do it? What's going on?
Well, the thing about Thanksgiving was my birthday intersects Thanksgiving. My birthday is November 23rd. And so it always intersected Thanksgiving.
Well, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. We missed your birthday. Happy birthday.
Don't worry about it. We've missed a lot of them. We'll miss a lot more, hopefully. But it always intersected with my birthday. So the big thing about Thanksgiving when I was growing up was it's my birthday. It's either coming to my birthday or it's my birthday's on Thanksgiving or something like that. And so it wasn't as much Thanksgiving as it was, the joy of presents and all that stuff around and having parties and seeing friends and all that stuff around my birthday. That's the principal memory of Thanksgiving. That and always watching the Thanksgiving football games on Thanksgiving Day. That was always a big deal. And then watching the college rivalry games the day after. So that's pretty much when I was younger. Present day, having grown up, and birthdays becoming a lot less important than they used to be.
They're not less important. They're just less anticipated, right? I don't know. I just forget about that, right? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, my birthday present this year was an exercise bike. Somebody's trying to tell me something.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So, maybe you sort of slide backwards in terms of enjoyment or in terms of things that you celebrate on your birthday as you get older. But the thing about Thanksgiving these days is it's eggnog season. So I can start putting eggnog in virtually everything I drink, as well as drinking it alone. That's a taste that I really enjoy. I enjoy in the mornings with coffee. So right now I sort of least this phase of my life, I sort of translate Thanksgiving into it's time to start eggnog season and pumpkin pie season, which may lead to why I have somebody gave me an exercise bike, but it's food related, food and drink related. Thanksgiving food and drink.
Right. Well, and I think that's a big thing for Thanksgiving. I mean, when you were growing up, did your mom did you have some kind of specialty Thanksgiving dish that was like the thing you look forward to? I know it's your birthday, but some kind of specialty dish you look forward to all year?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I was fortunate when I grew up in a very small community where my parents had grown up and where their parents had grown up. So it was really a family thing. We'd always gather the family, or at least parts of the family, for Thanksgiving. And my grandmother on my mother's side, my mother will check me on this if I'm wrong, but my grandmother on my mother's side always made this oyster dressing. And that was always a highlight of Thanksgiving for me. If there's anything that, somebody reached out and pulled my hand back from, it was the oyster dressing. I kept putting more and more on my plate. But it was the traditional dressing, mashed potatoes, carrots, green beans, turkey. We seldom had ham in my recollection, but that was the traditional Thanksgiving Day meal. So but now it's still turkey. Not as much oyster dressing. Pumpkin pie is still a big part of it, but eggnog is the big factor.
I had to laugh. My daughter had to go to Anchorage for something anyway. So I told her, make a trip to Costco while you're there, because, we don't have a lot of groceries down here. And this was in late October. And, she came back. It was like the third week of October. She came back with 2 gallons of eggnog. Yeah. And I'm like, boy, it's getting earlier and earlier. The eggnog season is starting to crank up, and you have to love it. My daughter makes these eggnog snickerdoodles. Which are like the best of both worlds. You get the cinnamony snickerdoodle, and then you get the eggnog flavor, and it's all good. And you know what? I don't know. You've been around a long time. Do you remember?
Yes, as the number of birthdays stack up.
Yes, Do you remember the Darigold eggnog?
Oh yeah.
See, that was the best eggnog ever. And I actually tried for a short period of time after the Matanuska made dairy finally, wet the bed and closed down. I tried for a long time to see if I could figure out how to get the recipe for that, because that was the best eggnog ever. Darigold's close, but that was the best eggnog ever. And I've just never been able to find it. But yeah, that is a true Christmas classic.
Yeah, my new favorite. Well, Thanksgiving classic. I hit the stuff early. Classic. But the one that I now am enamored with is Southern Comfort. It's not because, there's not any Southern Comfort in it, although that would probably be helpful. But it's Southern Comfort makes this eggnog that's spiced. That's got a tang to it, and so that's my favorite currently, and you can get that in Anchorage. So
my wife actually came back. She came back with a jug of that here for something. She wanted to try a coffee drink or something with it. She said she'd seen it on TikTok or whatever it was, and the Southern Comfort spiced was the way to do it. So
and now she can say she's seen it on the Michael Duke show.
Exactly. Any other? So do you still? I'm not a football fan. I've never been a sports guy, so I don't watch the football game. Did you ever watch the Macy's Day Parade or anything else, or was there? What do you do now as an adult outside of that?
Well, reluctantly, I watched it. It's because there wasn't anything else on at that.
It barely had 2 channels. I was in black and white when Brad was growing up.
There was we had 3 channels, but there wasn't anything else going. So you had to watch a parade and decide pick a parade, and always wonder if any of the inflated balloons were deflating, or whether there was some huge problem going on with one of the parades. But that was just because there wasn't anything else on. Now you can watch football, basketball, various tournaments from Hawaii or wherever, and you can watch basketball or football pretty much 24 hours a day. So I don't know. I don't follow back with those parades anymore. I think my mother wanted to watch those parades too. So since there wasn't anything else going on,
you do what you got to do. Well, and now as a big music junkie, do you have a musical thing that you do for Thanksgiving, or what happens there?
No, there isn't anything really related to Thanksgiving. I mean, Christmas, I'll get into Christmas Celtic here, going pretty good. There's a lot of good Cape Breton Celtic music that have Christmas themes to it, Irish, Scottish, that's starting to make it into my playlist around Thanksgiving. But there's not really anything Thanksgiving themed in terms of music that I really listen to. We're beginning to. I'm visiting my mother, visiting my mother a lot these days, as her birthdays stack up, and so there's a lot of Christmas lights in the area where she lives, and we're beginning to see a lot of Christmas lights. So it's nice to sort of drive around the evenings when the lights are on, and talk about when there used to be Christmas lights and used to be Christmas traditions and Thanksgiving traditions and that sort of stuff with her. So I guess that's another thing, in addition to the eggnog that I'm enjoying currently.
The earlier Christmas lights every year. And what's your plan for this Thanksgiving? Are you doing it just home? Are you going to mom's? What are you doing?
My mother lives in a retirement village now, and they have a fairly extensive dining service over there, and so she invited us to go over and be with her for Thanksgiving dinner. So we're going to.
No, look at that. We lost Brad for just a hot second. All right. Well, Brad Keithley, Alaskans For Sustainable Budgets, the weekly top 3. I'm sorry, we lost you there at the end. So you're going over to spend time with mom then for Thanksgiving. Right. So there you go. You had a bit of a hiccup there. We lost you for a minute.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, it's all good. Brad, I appreciate you sticking with us. And then of course, we're going to do the Christmas top 3, right? That's the big thing.
Unless I can think of an excuse to get out of it, yes, we're going to do the Christmas top 3.
You can see that. He's the guy. This is the guy that was watching the Macy's Day Parade, wondering if any of the floats were having a problem and were they going to deflate and crash down on anybody. And this is what Brad was thinking as a child. But yeah, no, the weekly, I know it's, I first time we did this with Brad, he's like, what? I don't, oh man, come on, top 3 memories or something, or traditions. I know.
I got into it a couple of years ago. I think I may have fired every memory I had a couple of years ago.
That's okay.
Maybe I'll just repeat it.
Just repeat it, Brad. I don't think it's a big deal. But it'll be good. It always makes us smile and think it's fun. And of course, the music of Christmas is there. I've been listening to Christmas music since the last week of October. I'm feeling it.
You have, and I appreciate that. The green room music, for those of you who don't get the green room music before Michael goes on air is really some really good stuff. I mean, he's got a really good playlist. It's been Christmassy. It's been getting you in the spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a playlist. I have it. It's up on Spotify. You just type in Michael Duke's Christmas playlist and you'll find it on Spotify. It's 10 hours of classic Christmas music.
I didn't know that. I may put that on then.
Yeah, hook on over there, my friend. You'll enjoy it. All right. Well, Brad, thank you for spending some extra time with us this morning. I'm like I said, I'm getting to the point where I just don't want to talk about the politics anymore or the stuff or anything. I just want to feel good. So anyway,
I appreciate your efforts to try to humanize me.
I got to pull you out of the slide rule in the calculator sometime in the charts. I'm going to give Brad charts for Christmas. I think he'll love that. He'll love that. That'll be great. So exciting. Going to give him a pad of blank graph paper for Christmas. There you go, Brad.
I can put it as the background to me.
Exactly. All right, Brad. Well, thank you so much for coming on board. As always, my friend, it's great to talk with you. Thanks for being part of it today.
Michael, thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you so much. Brad Keithley, Alaskans For Sustainable Budgets, the weekly top 3, and the Thanksgiving edition of the memories and everything else. Oyster dressing. That was actually something that we got oyster stuffing, right? So when I ran the holiday recipe contest that first year, that was actually one of the recipes that was listed there. And my wife was like, "Oh, I want to try that. It's super good." She's made it a couple times since then, and it is absolutely delicious. So anyway, oyster stuffing. Oyster stuffing is good stuff. All right, well, we're up against the break. We're going to continue here in just a moment. I got some unusual Christmas or unusual Thanksgiving dishes that we're going to talk about next. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with more right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Sorry, we'll get caught up here. My dog, what's the matter, buddy? What's the matter, huh? Yeah, good dog. Sorry, Bosco was in there having a deal. All right. What else is going on here? Turkey hunting. Harold's going turkey hunting. Good for you. Good for you. Our family tradition, says Frank, our family tradition in Wisconsin was to try and kill a deer. You go deer hunting on Thanksgiving. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Miguel said we used to go and knock on all of our neighbors' doors and sing Christmas carols, and then would join us to go on the next house, each home giving us hot cocoa, etc. Nice. Nice. I like that. I like that. Let's see. Yeah, I still wish Matt Newscomade made Northern Comfort. Was that what they called the eggnog? Oh, so good. So thick, so delicious. Tawny says the Alaska Range Dairy out of Delta Junction is great. Do they make an eggnog, Tawny? I want to know. Do they make an eggnog? I love it. I'm just going through here, see if there's anything else. My boy and I are eggnog junkies, says Bradley. I know, right? Eggnog is delicious. My grandfather actually made a recipe. He had a recipe for eggnog, which since we moved, I can't find anything. I'm sure it's probably in storage in a box marked Christmas or marked kitchen. Please put in kitchen, and I put it in storage or something. But I can't find my grandfather's eggnog recipe right now. But I would love to crank some of that up. But yeah, the best eggnog is Matt Newscomade. They do make it. Huh. Willie Keppel just said, I was just thinking about Matt made eggnog and walked into a village store for the first time in a decade. They had half-gallon jugs of eggnog. It was good, but not as good as Matt made. No, that's the thing. Nobody's as good as Matt made. That's the thing. But I'm going to have to go check out this. Tawny's telling us about this place in the Delta place. Where was it? I just lost the name of it. It's in Three Bears. Alaska Range Dairy out of Delta Junction. I'll have to go check it out. We'll have to see it. We'll have to see what it's like. See what it's like. Did Willie ever recover from the typhoon? I don't know. Willie's in the chat room. He can tell us how he's doing. Willie, how's the recovery efforts going out there? What's going on? Give us the rundown. Oh, Harold says I do all my hunting at Fred Meyer. So he was going to go turkey hunting. He's gonna go to Fred Meyer and do. If you're hunting for turkeys now, you're a little late, you know. Charlie said, I tried to make eggnog from scratch once and got distracted. I ended up with a huge egg custard, but I bet it was a delicious egg custard. Yeah. Yeah. It's there's something about eggnog. I don't know what. Just the thick, the creaminess, the texture, the spices. Oh, so good. So good. All right. So we're going to talk about some unusual Thanksgiving sides. These are like new ones. These are what they're recommending. New York Cooking, Bon Appetit, Food 52, Southern Living. These are all unique dishes that you might consider for your. I mean, I don't think I'm going to be eating any of these, but I thought I'd throw it out there because I was like, what's some unusual Thanksgiving sides? And I dug it up and it was like, oh yeah, those are super unusual. Super unusual. Although I will say that fondue mashed potatoes sound delicious. Fondue mashed potatoes, I am all about that. 100%. 100%. All right. Hi, welcome back. Let's do it.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Yeah, I know. I busted something and I came back early. It wasn't supposed to, blah, 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 blah. What are we talking about? Well, Chris Story's going to be joining us at the end of the show today. And I'm sure he'll have something very positive and good for our weekly uplift. Meanwhile, I thought, because tomorrow tomorrow's show is just going to be Thanksgiving traditions and memories and reminiscence and all kinds of food stories. We're going to be doing the holiday recipe contest. That's coming up next week. We're going to be starting that. We're going to pull out the holiday recipes and we're going to post recipes up on the Facebook page. And then you have to, if you want to vote for a recipe, you'll have to like the single, everybody will comment with their recipe. And it's just a good excuse for me to get a bunch of recipes from you guys. That's how I do it. I just steal your best recipes, your favorite thing, the one that grandma said, don't ever share this with anybody. And I want you to put it up on Facebook so people can see it. Because it's just not fair. I know grandma probably rolling over in her grave about, this is a secret family recipe. Well, it's okay, grandma. Everybody should share the love. Everybody should share the love and feel it. That's what it should be. But before we get into the holiday recipe contest, which is going to be next week, I thought, maybe you're looking for some last minute inspiration for your holiday dishes. And so I thought, well, why not find out some very unusual ones, right? And so I utilized my Gemini AI here to pull me some unusual and unique recipes for the holidays. And so these come from places like Bon Appetit magazine and Food 52 and New York Times Cooking and Southern Living and all these other kind of. But here are a few recipes that may or may not catch your fancy. So we start off with squash, butternut squash mac and cheese. Now, there's very few things in this world that I just don't, and butternut squash is better than others. But I'm sorry, I have a hard time with squash in general. Butternut squash mac and cheese. But I mean, now here's one that I would try: kimchi cheddar biscuits. Oh yeah, kimchi cheddar biscuits. That just sounds delicious. I'm not gonna lie. I love kimchi. I love cheddar biscuits. This sounds like a fantastic opportunity to try them both and enjoy the best of both worlds. So that's it. So how about some unique vegetable dishes? Roasted Brussels sprouts with gochujang brown butter. So this is that's the Korean. It's a little bit of a Korean flair in your Thanksgiving food. I love Brussels sprouts, and Brussels sprouts in butter, or better yet, in bacon grease. That's a pretty good deal. Charred dates with shaved carrots. Apparently, it's a crunchy salad, colorful. Raw carrots, blood orange dressing paired with charred dates and fresh tarragon. Cheesy cauliflower gratin, a creamy and cheesy alternative to the traditional gratin or mac and cheese that's packed with flavor. I like cauliflower, but why go? You can't go wrong with potatoes. You can't go wrong with potatoes au gratin. Why mess with a good thing at that point? Creamed, no, not doing it. Creamed kale, not doing it. A rich and savory side that's like spinach dip, but with kale. Why would you ruin perfectly good spinach dip by putting kale in it? I mean, kale is what you use for decoration, okay? You don't use kale to actually eat unless you're going for a colonoscopy that week. You just don't use kale no. Roasted pears and pistachios with Brussels sprouts. Caramelized pears and crunchy pistachios add a unique sweet and nutty profile to the okay. And then butternut squat. Sorry, I'm a juvenile. Butternut squash and mushroom tart. I love mushroom flavor. I love it, but ugh. How about creative takes on classics? Jalapeno cheddar corn pudding souffle. So a cheesy, slightly spicy take on corn that offers a mixture of texture and flavor. That actually sounds good. I like souffle, and jalapeno cheddar corn pudding. Yeah, okay. This one is kind of throwing me because I like everything in it, but I'm trying to wrap my brain around the whole bread pudding component of it. It's wild mushroom bread pudding with sausage and Gruyere. That just sounds... It says this umami-rich and savory bread pudding that provides a decadent alternative to traditional stuffing. That actually sounds really good. Wild mushroom bread pudding with sausage and Gruyere. Hasselback potatoes. Instead of standard mashed or roasted potatoes, the Hasselback method creates a visually appealing side. I don't even know what Hasselback potatoes look like. I don't know. I've seen this. I've heard about them lately. It seems like this is a more and more... What is a Hasselback potato? Oh, it's where you basically take the potato and you slice it like into thin slices, and you leave it whole. Okay, Hasselback potato. Okay, that's not a bad deal. Cranberry pear applesauce chutney. So this is a fresh take on cranberry sauce. You use fruits like pears, apples, and oranges, along with warm spices and dried fruits for a complex flavor. I like that. But this one is a winner. I'm going to try this one right now. I can tell you this is going to be one that I think we're going to try this year, if I can find the cheese. Pimento cheese green beans. It elevates the green beans with the rich flavor of pimento cheese and the sweetness of the peppers, moving away from the traditional casserole. That sounds delicious. I want to try that. Yeah. So I do have a link to these. And again, they mention it. They tease me at the top with the kimchi cheddar biscuits, but I don't see a link to that recipe. So we're gonna work on that here and see if we could find it. But yeah, the pimento cheese green beans, absolutely delicious. And then finally down into the salads, because who needs a salad at Thanksgiving? I mean, come on, really, right? But radicchio and blue cheese bread salad. It's a bold, flavorful salad with toasted baguettes, pancetta, and blue cheese. I'm down, man. I am totally down with all this. This sounds delicious. This whole thing just sounds absolutely amazing. All right. So anyway, I'm going to try at least one of these recipes, whether it's the kimchi biscuits or the pimento cheese green beans. Those sound like a new tradition. A new tradition is being born right there. Ooh, man, so good. Kale makes a great smoothie. Why would you? Sure, you blend it up, you put it in a glass, and then you pour it down the garbage disposal. It makes a great smoothie. Cleans out those pipes like right now. That's what it is. Yeah, if you put lots of olive oil on kale when you cook it, it's easier to slide into the garbage can, says Charlie. It's exactly it right there. Lots of olive oil on it. Okay, but I'm sorry. I shouldn't hate on kale so much, but dang, there's just something about it. Why would you want to, yeah, that sounds delicious. All right, we'll have to try this. Some of this stuff is absolutely delicious. All right, we will. I guess we're gonna wrap things up here a minute early or so, and we'll continue on with some more good stuff. Chris Story is coming up on tomorrow's program. I'm going to open up the phone lines early on, and we're just all going to share our holiday memories, our holiday recipes, and just anything Thanksgiving. I just want it to be a good, fun, relaxing day. Good, fun, relaxing day tomorrow in the morning, because it's a good start. Because let's face it, nobody's going to want to talk to you after the show. I mean, like everybody's like already on vacation. By 9 a.m. on a Wednesday before Thanksgiving, nobody's thinking about work. I don't care if you're at work, you're not thinking about it anymore, right? It's just not happening anymore. So we're going to do that. We're going to just enjoy that tomorrow. We're going to hang out and just do something together. That's what it's all about. Okay. Chris Story is coming up. And maybe we'll get him to share some of his Thanksgiving memories. Maybe we'll get him to call in tomorrow and do it too. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have a good time. Okay, my friends, back with more. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based. Free Thinking Radio. We return with more, and Chris Story right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. All right. What do we got here? Kimchi cheddar biscuits. Here they are. View the recipe. Features everything we love about biscuits. Think tall layers, ample quantities of butter, but introduces fiery kimchi and sharp cheddar cheese into the mix. The final product is equal parts tangy, flaky, and savory. Oh, man, do those look good. Oh, those look so good. All right. I'm going to post this up in the chat room because you guys need this. You guys need that in your life. Kimchi biscuits. Sounds delicious. What was the other one? Pimento cheese green beans. Let's see what this says. Pimento. Nope. Wrong one. Okay. All right. Let me go back to this other one. Wow, there's a lot of different ones here. There's yummy. All right. See if I can find this. Pimento. No. This pie, though. Somebody made a cranberry pie. It's a cranberry. It looks delicious. Cranberry curd tart. You'll never make a pumpkin pie again? Yeah, right. This ruby red, tangy sweet cranberry tart from David Tanis is a stunner. To achieve the color, be sure to follow the directions and save your sanity. Prepare the crust and curd a day or two in advance. That's okay. Cheesy Hasselback potato au gratin. Ooh, yum. Sticky cranberry gingerbread. Old-fashioned sweet potato casserole. Baked brie and caramelized vegetable pie. Man, I'm hungry. All of a sudden. That was some Ooh, cranberry lemon bars. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna have to hunt down this pimento cheesy green beans. That just sounds delicious. We need that. We need that in our lives, don't we? All right. What else do we need in our lives? How about a Chris story? Should we bring him on the program and see if he's up to the task here of bringing us up and giving us some positivity? Spinach dip and stuffed mushrooms is delicious. Oh man. All right, let's bring the Story Meister to the stage here and see what he has to say. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. Well, I'm sorry to say the dogs are awake. They're not. They give them a minute. They may start snoring in a second, but they're pretty
snoring.
perky this morning.
No snoring for the dogs this morning. That's all good. Oh man, I went down the rabbit hole of Thanksgiving eats. There's some good stuff out there.
Yeah. Have you ever done a fried turkey?
I have not done it myself personally, but I have attended where somebody did do it, and it is delicious. It is delicious.
That's my favorite. Yeah, our family did one about 20 years ago. Did not set the house on fire, and yet we've never done one since, and I don't know why, but it was amazing.
Yeah, it is a little bit labor intensive, but only for a short period of time. It doesn't take that long. It's not like you're cooking it in the roaster and it takes 3 or 4 hours. I mean, it cooks pretty darn quick, and it is delicious. A fried turkey is a delicious delicacy.
I don't know if have you ever tried the Korean fried chicken that's kind of sweeping the world with popularity right now?
No, I haven't. What is that?
I just saw it on 60 Minutes or 2020. One of those shows, news magazines had a feature on Korean fried chicken, and it looks like the crunchiest and most delicious fried chicken you've ever had. And I'm thinking, got to try me some of that.
Yeah, no, I'll have to check it out. I have not seen that. But I'm always game for something new and spicy. And I do love Korean food. Korean food is one of my favorite ethnic foods. I just love Korean food. So I would definitely sit down and try crunchy. So you're saying it's like fried chicken, but it's
It is. They do it double fried. And what happened is during the Korean War, the black soldiers, U.S. soldiers, were still segregated, unfortunately, and had their own, units and so forth. And they would share their fried chicken that they were cooking there with the Koreans, and then the Koreans put their own spin on it. And
Oh,
now it has come back full circle, back to America, and is all over the rest
wow.
of the lower 48. Soon it will be here, I predict. At least
Right.
this is according to 60 Minutes.
It'll be a new kind of KFC, Korean fried chicken. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Here we
well
here we
played.
go. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Okay. Chris Story and I, we're just talking about Korean fried chicken, which sounds, my mind is imagining it. It sounds delicious. But we were talking about Thanksgiving meals and Thanksgiving recipes and everything. I don't know what Chris is going to talk about because I forgot to ask him. I was so much into the recipes there, I forgot. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. That Korean fried chicken is so crispy that apparently I have a disorder. Michael, you may not know this, but I suffer from a disorder, and it's yet to be classified as protected class of disorders, but yet it remains such that I can't be around somebody that is smacking or loud crunching without, something happens in my brain, I shut down and I get angry, and I can't remember the name of that. Hopefully somebody will know it, but there's like a real disorder. I really do suffer from this. So Korean fried chicken may not be something I could eat in public. I don't know.
Well, does it bother you, the crunching? Does it bother you when you're doing it or only when other people are
No, not
smacking
the
their
least. Of course not. Of course
Yeah,
not.
exactly.
I can do anything I want in this world and not bother myself. No,
So
of course
Chris is in the closet over here eating half a bucket of Korean fried chicken by himself because Tiffany is he's like, you make too much noise. You can't have any. It's good. All right. So, my friend, what are we covering today in our weekly uplift segment? What do you got here?
Well, I figured gratitude is as good a topic for Thanksgiving week as any.
Oh,
Gratitude comes
yeah.
from the Latin
I
root
see
of
that.
gratis, which is also gratis. Is the root of a lot of good things, to include grace. And I think a lot of us probably could use a little grace right now, either with ourselves or our family members or people that we vehemently disagree with. And I thought, well, why not talk about gratitude in the form of self leadership? Because truly, that is, I think, it is like a giant flashlight in our life. When you're feeling lost, maybe you're feeling a little empty, maybe even lonely. As soon as you get grateful, and it is something you can get, you can put yourself into a grateful mindset no matter what's happening around you. It's suddenly there's opportunity, and suddenly you're reflecting on what you've had, what you've done in the past, and what you are grateful for, and it opens the door to going forward, and you can find your way forward. But you've sometimes got to take a minute and just bask in the gratitude for what you've already done, what you've already got, what's happened good for you in your life. And it can sound cheesy, but I honestly think just taking a minute and just basking in what you're grateful for in the now helps figure a way forward, especially if you're feeling a little lost or lonely, which is hard to believe during the holidays if somebody could, but statistically, a lot of us do feel that way.
Okay. All right. Well, I know the holidays can be joyful, but if you are alone, and then that's definitely a bad thing. So even if we are alone, how do we process that gratitude? How do we feel it?
Remember my grandma Billy, my dad's mom, when she's passed away some 15 years ago now, but before she did, she had scleroderma, she had arthritis, she had this rheumatoid arthritis to the point where her hands were sort of just a constant fist. She couldn't really open them. Same with her feet. She couldn't walk. She was wheelchair bound. And my grandfather was just her constant care provider. And they went out to dinner one night, and she was telling us about a man who was sitting at another table who couldn't hold his head up off the table. His wife had to keep straightening him up, and she fed him. And my grandmother was able to kind of open her first and second finger just enough to hold a fork and feed herself. And she said, "I'm so grateful that I can still feed myself." And I thought, God Almighty, I've got nothing. Wow, that is the epitome of finding something to be grateful for in the middle of a storm. And I've never forgotten that example of just that is okay. What's going on in your life? Find something you can be grateful for. I know America's not perfect. We see
Right.
people protesting, constantly around the country, and I am so grateful they have the opportunity to do that. I am so grateful that our founding fathers decided that we'd aim towards a more perfect union. That is something, even when I drive by and I see these signs that are just, one of them is just so hateful. Like, what are you're comparing people to Nazis? Do you know what you're doing? Okay, you know what? Here's what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful they have the opportunity to do that. I got to find something in the storm of that. And there are health benefits to gratitude. There really are. They've done a lot of studies, and truly you can improve much of your life by simply wallowing in gratitude.
Wallowing in gratitude, not just feeling it.
Yes.
You should wallow in it. That's
It paints a picture, doesn't it?
It does paint a picture. There are plenty of things to be great. And your grandmother's story reminds me of the old axiom of I cried because I have no shoes until I met the man that had no feet, right? Kind of thing. And then you're like, okay, maybe I need to suck it up a little bit more and not be quite so Debbie Downer about everything. How do we take gratitude on a daily basis, though? I mean, it's easy now because it's Thanksgiving and we're supposed to be giving thanks, but how do we apply that to our daily lives? How does Chris Story apply gratitude to his daily life?
Well, first of all, I start every morning off reading, meditating in prayer, and then writing in a journal. And oftentimes I will write a couple of, even just a sentence or two about something that I'm grateful for as a means of greasing the skids for everything else that might be coming today, that might not be so pleasant or might be a difficult circumstance. But it's just a small daily reminder that I am, practicing gratitude. It's not a one and done. It's not, oh, good, I've achieved it. I've got my Eagle Scout patch in gratitude. Now I can just move on with life. It is a practice like any other. It's something that takes reminding yourself daily. And I think writing it out for me is the best practice of all, because it's an intentional moment where I'm focused on that. I've got a pen and a piece of paper, and I'm there's nothing else I can focus on in that moment other than that. And when you realize that it supports your heart health, studies have shown that it improves your cardiovascular system, it improves your sleep habits, which good sleep is the root of all health. It improves longer lifespan. There's literally studies done. People that are grateful, that
Gratitude
practice
does, or the
gratitude.
writing? The
Gratitude.
gratitude does,
Practicing
or the
gratitude.
writing of the gratitude? Okay. Practicing gratitude. Okay.
Practicing, yeah, absolutely. However you do it. Some people don't want to sit and write a journal. Some people don't want to. It's fine, no problem. But just when you practice gratitude and you put yourself into a place of being grateful, you're improving all your health markers like tenfold. And there's been many studies from Mayo to John Hopkins that show this. So it's science, folk. It's science. You can't argue with science. We know that.
Well, can't argue with the science. Don't argue with the science. No, and I think being grateful, there are times when I have felt overwhelmed by what I have to do, or by the situation, or by everything else. And I have taken when I have sometimes though, when you're in that mindset, it's hard to shift, right? It's hard to shift to a gratitude mindset when you're anxious or when you're stressed or whatever. But when I've been able to do it and say, okay, wait a second, I got to pull myself out of this, and I don't want to be angry, I don't want to be upset, I don't, and I've sat down and I started to say, okay, and I start to repeat the what I'm grateful for. It definitely does help. I mean, this is the count your blessings thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I like the notion that, because, Michael Dukes is a pretty positive guy until he gets to talking about the Alaska budget or the PFD and so forth. Then
Deferred
he kind of
maintenance.
gets out the window.
Deferred maintenance. Oh my God, deferred maintenance.
Hey, just wait till Adam Crum is our governor. It's all going to be good. But I digress. I digress. I will debate that later. But I'm grateful for the fact that we have an opportunity to vote. And even though we're amidst a lot of economic crises, apparently, we get an opportunity to vote. But I think just going back to your point about sitting down and going, wait a minute. Okay, what am I grateful for? If I start the morning, not because it's I'm some sort of a cloistered monk. I literally intentionally start the morning with a particular routine that includes gratitude because I feel like it's a bit of a vitamin for me that helps me orient for the rest of the day. And if I get a little bit off track later in the day, it's fine. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to be resetting anyway. Going to go through the gratitude list. Going to go through everything that I have, and it comes back to I think the three things that are the most fundamental in my life is to look forward, having goals. And we know that big goals do more for you than small goals, but still, I have both small and larger goals that I'm looking forward to. But I don't live into the future too far. And I learn from the past. So I look backwards, and that's where gratitude, I'm really grateful for those experiences that I've had and even the mistakes I've made because they created the person that I am now today. And I wouldn't trade that because I'm glad to be who I am. And then there's the matter of just recognizing that I'm really grateful for this present moment. Like there's a million things that anybody could be doing at any one point in a day. But that present moment, when you are awake and aware, that is your life. That is the good life. And you take it with you everywhere you go. And so if you start off the morning just practicing gratitude, it sets you up for a successful day, no matter what comes at you.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about kind of being proactive, right? So that you don't get to the point to where you're frustrated or angry or whatever. And that helps you center yourself every day. You've made that specific choice. Any advice for those of us who don't have your discipline to do that, to get up every morning and have a gratitude moment or do something like that? Like I was saying, if I'm angry about something, sometimes I can pull myself out of it by doing, by being grateful, by thinking of the good things and that kind of stuff. Any advice for people who struggle with that but aren't able to always pull themselves out of it?
Just try it. You could even get a little small business card sized piece of paper to put in your pocket. Just says gratitude, grateful. I am blank. And just as a little physical reminder, something could be a sticky note next to your computer. I am grateful. Today, I am grateful.
Today, I am grateful. I'll tell you what I'm grateful for. Chris Story, who comes on every week to share, takes time out of his busy morning of gratitude and self-reflection to join us. We really appreciate that. It's a highlight of my week. I don't care if it's a highlight of yours. It's all about me at this point. But I love having him on just to talk with us. Chris, thank you so much, my friend. I hope you and Tiffany and the whole family have a very great Thanksgiving. Thank you for being part of it today.
Thank you. Very, very grateful for you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks so much. Chris Story. Out of time, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Yes, and Miguel, tomorrow is open phone lines. We're going to hang out. We're going to talk about being grateful. We're going to have our own gratefulness thing going on. We're going to do that all tomorrow. Going to talk about some recipes. I found that pimento recipe. I actually had to go all the way back to the Wayback Machine on the internet because the site that it was linking to was down. But I was able to find it. So I got that one. And then a creamy Parmesan Brussels sprouts gratin with bacon. Oh, God. All right. Anyway, that's where I'm going. It's tomorrow's going to be holiday recipes, holiday remembrances, and everything else. Come on down. Tomorrow is the day. All right, my friends, I appreciate you being with us today. We will see you tomorrow. Be kind, love one another, live well. The Michael Duke Show.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.